My name is Emma, and I want to tell you my story. I'm 23 years old and live in a quiet town called Blue Ridge Valley. It's a beautiful place surrounded by forests and hills, but life here is not always easy. Everything changed one cold morning in November when I made a very hard decision. I have a younger brother named Ben. He's only 17, and after our parents passed away, I became both his sister and guardian. He's everything to me. One evening, Ben came home late. He looked scared. His hands were shaking, and his voice was weak. "Emma," he said, "I'm in trouble. I borrowed money from some men to fix my motorbike. Now they want it back. If I don't pay them soon, they said they'll hurt me. Maybe even kill me." My heart dropped. I had no idea what to do. I worked at a small bakery, and my paycheck barely covered rent and food. We didn't have savings, and there was no one I could ask for help. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept looking at Ben, thinking about how I could protect him. Then a name came to my mind: Victor. He was a rich man in our town, around 35 years old, and owned a chain of car dealerships. He lived in a big white house on a hill and always acted too friendly with me whenever he came to the bakery. He once said, "Emma, you don't belong behind that counter. A pretty girl like you should be with someone who can give you a better life." I never liked him. He made me uncomfortable. But now, I had no other option. The next morning, I went to Victor's house. A maid opened the door and led me to a room with shiny wooden floors and large windows. Victor came in smiling. "Emma, what a nice surprise," he said. I didn't waste time. "I need your help," I said. "My brother is in danger. He owes bad people money. Please, can you lend me some?" Victor's smile grew. "Of course I can," he said. "But I have one condition." I froze. "What condition?" I asked. He leaned closer. "You must agree to marry me." His words felt like ice. "I don't love you," I said quickly. "You don't have to," he replied coldly. "You need the money, and I want you. That's the deal." I stood up and walked out of the house in tears. I didn't want to agree. I didn't want to sell myself. But when I looked at Ben lying on the couch that night, sleeping with worry on his face, I made my decision. I had to save him. The next day, I went back to Victor's house and agreed. He gave me an envelope full of money. I didn't say much. I just took it and left. But inside, I was breaking. I knew I could never marry a man like him. That night, guilt ate me up. I walked back to Victor's house with the money in my hand. I told him I changed my mind and wanted to return it. He looked angry. "You think you can take my money and leave?" he asked. His voice was louder, sharper. He stepped closer, his eyes full of something dark. I was scared. My hands were shaking. I didn't feel safe. On the table beside me was a heavy glass lamp. I didn't think. I grabbed it and hit him with all my strength. Victor fell to the floor. I didn't wait to see if he was okay. I ran out of the house and into the cold, dark night. I kept running through trees, down small roads, until I couldn't breathe. My legs were weak, and my heart felt like it would burst. Then I saw a small wooden house near the forest. There were no lights on, but I knocked on the door with the little strength I had left. Before I share the rest of my story, I want to ask you something. Where are you listening from? It gives me strength to know someone is hearing my words, someone who understands. Please tell me in the comments. I would really love to know. A young man opened the door. He looked surprised to see me standing there in the dark. Please, I said softly. I have nowhere to go. Can you help me? He looked at me for a few seconds, then stepped aside. Come in, he said. His name was Daniel. He was about 26 years old, quiet and calm. His house smelled like tea and old books. He gave me a blanket and made me sit near the fire. You can rest here. I won't ask anything right now, he said kindly. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, shaking and tired, but feeling safer than I had in days. I stayed at Daniel's house for 3 days. He gave me food and warm clothes and never pushed me to talk. On the second day, I told him everything about Ben, about Victor, and about the money. Daniel listened quietly. He didn't get angry. He didn't look at me like I was a bad person. He just said, "You did what you had to do for your family. Sometimes we don't have easy choices." His words made me feel something warm inside. I hadn't felt that in a long time. There was something about Daniel, his voice, his calm eyes, the way he made tea in silence, that made me feel peaceful. But I knew I couldn't stay forever. On the third day, I packed my small bag and said, "Thank you, Daniel. I'll never forget your kindness." As I walked away, I looked back once. He was standing at the door, watching me go. I didn't say anything else. I just walked down the quiet path through the trees. But something strange was happening inside me. I kept thinking about him, his face, his voice, his words. I told myself it was just gratitude, but deep inside I wasn't sure. Why couldn't I stop thinking about Daniel? After I left Daniel's house, I walked for hours without knowing where I was going. The trees around Blue Ridge Valley were tall and quiet. The wind felt cold on my face. I didn't have a plan, but I knew I had to keep moving. I found a small motel outside the town and used some of the money Victor gave me to pay for a few nights. I didn't want to use his money, but I had no other choice. I still needed to help Ben. I sent the rest of the money to him through a friend I trusted. A few days later, he called me. His voice was calm. "They're gone, Emma. The men left. I gave them everything. Thank you for saving me." I smiled with relief. My brother was safe. That was the most important thing. But even though Ben was safe now, I didn't feel peace. I sat in that small motel room thinking about Daniel. I saw his face in my dreams. I heard his quiet voice when I closed my eyes. I tried to forget him, but I couldn't. Why was this happening? I had known him for only a few days. Was it possible to care about someone so quickly? I told myself, no, it's not love. You're just thankful. But my heart told me something different. Every day I thought about going back to Daniel's house. But what would I say? What if he didn't want to see me again? What if he thought I was just trouble? The questions made me scared, but they didn't stop me. One morning, I woke up early, packed my bag, and walked back toward the forest. As I walked the familiar path, my heart beat faster with every step. I reached Daniel's house just before sunset. The sky was orange and birds were flying home. I stood at the door and took a deep breath. Then I knocked. Daniel opened the door. His eyes widened in surprise. "Emma, you came back." "Yes," I said softly. I came to thank you again. And to tell you something." He stepped aside, and I walked in. We sat at the same table where we had our tea days before. The room was warm, but I felt nervous. I looked at him and spoke slowly. "You helped me when I had nothing. You listened to me. You didn't judge me. And since I left, I can't stop thinking about you. I think I've fallen in love with you." For a moment, Daniel said nothing. I felt my heart drop. Did I say the wrong thing? Did I ruin everything? But then he smiled gently and looked into my eyes. "I've been thinking about you too," he said. "I missed you every day since you left. I didn't know if you would come back, but I hoped you would." His words felt like sunshine after a long storm. I smiled, and my eyes filled with tears. "You mean you feel the same?" "Yes," he said. "I do." We didn't need many words after that. We just sat in quiet happiness. Over the next few weeks, I stayed with Daniel. We spent time together every day. He showed me his garden, full of wild flowers and herbs. He had a small bookshelf where he kept his favorite novels. He even played an old guitar in the evenings while I watched the stars from the porch. I hadn't felt so peaceful in years. Daniel didn't ask for anything. He didn't want to own me or control me. He just wanted me to be happy, and that made me love him even more. But life is never that simple. One evening, Daniel and I were sitting outside on the porch. He was playing a soft song on his guitar, and I was sipping tea. The air was cool, and everything felt calm. Then we heard a sound. A car. It came slowly down the dirt road and stopped in front of the house. My heart stopped. I knew that car. I had seen it many times before. It was Victor. He got out, and 2 men came with him. They looked angry. Victor walked toward us. "Emma," he said, "you thought you could take my money and disappear?" Daniel stood up and stepped in front of me. "Leave her alone," he said in a calm but strong voice. Victor laughed. "And who are you?" "Her little hero." Daniel didn't move.
Go back to your car. You're not welcome here.
Victor's eyes narrowed.
She owes me.
She owes you nothing, Daniel replied. She tried to return the money. You scared her. You tried to use her pain for your own gain. Now leave. The two men behind Victor stepped forward. My hands started to shake. I was scared. But Daniel didn't step back.
I'll call the police, he said. You really want that kind of trouble?
Victor looked around. His face was red with anger, but he didn't speak. After a long moment, he gave a cold smile.
This isn't over, Emma,
he said.
You'll regret this.
Then he turned and walked back to his car. The engine roared, and they drove away into the night. I sat down slowly, trying to breathe. Daniel took my hand.
It's okay,
he said.
He's gone.
But I knew Victor. He didn't forget, and he didn't forgive. That night, Daniel and I talked for hours. We decided it wasn't safe to stay in Blue Ridge Valley anymore. Victor might come back. We couldn't live in fear. So we made a new plan, to leave everything behind and start fresh somewhere far away. The next morning, we packed our things. I wrote a short letter to Ben and left it with a friend, telling him I was safe and happy. Daniel and I drove out of town in his old truck. We didn't know exactly where we were going, but we knew we would go together. After a few days of travel, we found a small village near the mountains. It was quiet and peaceful, just what we needed. We found a small house to rent. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was perfect for us. Daniel found a job as a school teacher. I started working in a tiny shop that sold handmade crafts and food. We didn't have much, but we had each other. Every evening we sat by the fire, talking or just sitting in silence. I was happy in a way I had never known before. But even now, part of me still looked over my shoulder. I didn't know if Victor would find us again. I didn't know if he would ever stop. But I did know one thing. I wasn't alone anymore. Life in the village was quiet and peaceful. The people were kind and the air was fresh. Daniel and I were happy. We had left the pain behind and started a new chapter of our lives. Every morning, we walked to work together. Daniel taught children in the small village school. The kids loved him. He told them funny stories and helped them learn with care. I worked in a little shop that sold food, tea, and handmade candles. The shop was warm and full of light. I liked helping people and talking with the old woman who owned it. Her name was Mrs. Harper, and she treated me like a daughter. In the evenings, Daniel and I sat outside, drinking tea and watching the sunset. Sometimes he played his guitar. Sometimes we just sat in silence, holding hands. I felt safe. I felt loved. I had never known this kind of life before. A life without fear. A life full of small, beautiful moments. One evening, as we sat near the fire in our little living room, Daniel looked at me with soft eyes.
"Emma,"
he said,
"I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? I felt tears in my eyes. My heart was full. Yes, I said. Yes, I will. We didn't have a big wedding. We didn't need one. We invited a few people from the village, including Mrs. Harper and the school children. The ceremony was simple. We stood in the garden outside our home with flowers and sunlight around us. I wore a plain white dress, and Daniel wore a light blue shirt. When we said our vows, I saw love in his eyes, and I knew I had made the right choice. After the wedding, life became even better. We cooked together, laughed more, and talked about the future. We didn't talk about the past much. Victor was gone. He didn't come back. Maybe he gave up. Maybe he found someone else to control. I didn't care anymore. That part of my life was over. Some nights I would wake up from bad dreams. In those dreams, I was running again, cold and scared. But every time I opened my eyes, Daniel was there beside me. He would hold my hand and whisper, "You're safe now. I'm here." And I believed him, because he had never lied to me. He never tried to own me or change me. He just loved me. One sunny afternoon, I sat in the garden, watching the bees fly from flower to flower. I thought about how far I had come. I thought about the girl I used to be, the girl who was afraid, the girl who had no choices. And now I was a wife. I was loved. I had peace in my heart. My brother Ben was safe too. We spoke sometimes on the phone. He had started working in a garage in another town. He told me he was proud of me. I told him I was proud of him too. I had made mistakes. I had taken money. I had hurt someone, even if it was to protect myself. But those mistakes led me to this life. Without them, I would have never met Daniel. I would have never learned what real love looks like. Love is not control. Love is not fear. Love is calm. Love is kindness. Love is Daniel. One evening, Daniel came home from school with a small package. He gave it to me and smiled. "Open it," he said. Inside was a photo frame. In it was a picture of us standing together in our garden. Behind us were the flowers, the house, and the sun. Under the photo, he had written, "Home is not a place. It is a person." I hugged him tightly. I didn't need anything more. Not money. Not a big house. Not fancy clothes. I just needed this man, this love, and this simple life. Now every morning when I wake up, I see Daniel beside me. I hear birds outside the window. I smell the tea he is making, and I feel thankful. Not because my life is perfect, it's not, but it is full of love, and that is more than enough. This is my story, the story of how I made a mistake, how I ran, and how I found something beautiful along the way. I found love. I found peace. And most of all, I found hope. If you are lost right now, if you are scared, I want you to know things can change.
A small act of kindness, a brave step forward, or even a stranger's help can change everything. I was broken once, but love helped me heal. And now I am whole again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.